All right. Well, um, yeah, May 31st, Sunday, 5 o'clock now, 70 degrees, and Geneva really sunny, kind of dry. I think it's going to be an easy week. We're running to the end of when we would really need to start looking at a lot of forecasts. As you can kind of see in this instance here, apple scab primary season's over, and Riverhead, you could look around and get an idea. I really wouldn't fool with the green tip date anymore. It does give you an idea of how intense the infections can be, but that's really only modeling ascospores. You can look at the infection event summary, and this seems to work pretty well for predicting any secondary events. Now, apple scab has two different spore stages. One are the ascospores coming from the leaf litter, and they're all gone mostly at this point. And what you would be managing at this point is if you had one infection or two that sneaked through and you didn't see it, these will make a different lesion that'll sporulate with a different type of spore that behaves very similarly. It doesn't like hot weather, doesn't like hot, dry weather, likes cool and wet, and a good bit of rain. And we're moving into the more hot, dry part of the season. And that being said, Riverhead's got a little bit of leaf wetness, but not enough to get an infection. We're probably not going to see many infections here, and we're going to move through the places pretty quickly, I would imagine. I'm going to look at the Hudson Valley. They're probably long done as well. Nothing to really worry about. You can just follow the other guidance on starting to begin your summer cover program and focusing on powdery mildew if you have that type of issue, or some of the other things. And in this particular case, you might not want to increase your interval too much. Still keep it, maybe I'd say 7 to 10 day interval until about your third cover. Just in case there is some apple scab hiding somewhere and your cover sprays are kind of knocking it out. Easy week for the Hudson Valley. Going to the Capital District. Where are we here? A little bit of leaf wetness here and there. Nothing to worry about. Average temperature infections over the last couple days. Pretty easy coming up into the week. It's going to cool down again, and it's not going to have a lot of rain. You're going to be doing well. I want to look up in Chasing and Peru, the last places that still potentially have apple scab. They're in one right now. Hopefully, you put something on towards the end of the week. I've been talking with Mike throughout the time as different events come up. If something comes up in the week, we'll converse about it and we'll make a plan. If you had coverage, this is a pretty weak sauce infection period for the most part. It's just a little bit of conditions that were favorable over 2 days. I guess today and tomorrow. Yeah, you're in a little bit now. And if you felt concerned, like I got mildew, I have apple scab, and I haven't sprayed in maybe 7 days or more, you could go ahead and put one of those powdery mildew type materials on that I recommended there, and it would clean whatever sneak through if your residue got depleted. But it's not a lot of rain. It is adding up a little bit, but not too much. But the rest of the week, you should be really good at um, in the Lake Champlain area. Go check out the Finger Lakes. See like we have any issues this week. No, super easy in the Finger Lakes. Just maintain your coverage, focus on some of the other diseases as discussed. I think we're going to be moving into a period where if you beat Scab now, you might have it locked in for the rest of the season. But don't watch out. The mildew is out there and it is pretty intense, at least in some of my plots. So, particularly along the lake, any of the places along the lake, it looks like they are in a massive scab infection period. Of course, and it's just going to be ending tomorrow. Same thing if you're up in the Sodus area or in the Williamson area, and I haven't put something on in 7 days, and all this rain has hit. It's not a lot of rain amount; it's just a lot of leaf wetness, and you're like, oh, I do need to do something for mildew. You could come in any time and use any of those mildew materials I recommend in the group 7-Elevens for mildew will take it out. Sulfur isn't going to give any reach back, but the single sites will, and you should be well on to surviving into the end of the week, which I think there's a blip of rain at the end of the week, but I don't think it's going to be enough to actually cause trouble. And very easily, let's look at Niagara, and then we'll go back and we'll look at all of the fire blight that we haven't talked about yet. Appleton. Let's take a look at that. They still technically have ascospores, but nothing to really worry about. If you haven't sprayed in forever, put something on. I'm trying some trials. Let's see what happens if I don't spray until there's another rain event predicted, and we're going to see how well that works out, even when you leave it for an uncomfortable 10 or 11 days. But that's sort of an experimental thing where probably the coverage has been burnt off by the sun by now, or it's just sort of flipped off. But not a lot of rain. But I'll be curious to see how that works out. Come to the field day in end of July, July 31st. We're having a big field day at Cornell Agritech. You can see all these types of experiments and many more. And there'll be announcements coming out in the Lake Ontario fruit team programs and some of the other Eastern New York fruit team programs as well. Let us, since we were just in Appleton, let's go in reverse. Let's see how they're doing with Fire Blight. Bloom is over. Okay, yep, I got it. Let's just pretend you had something going. And you're going to see this at a lot of places. You're going into the week pretty easy. Hopefully by June 4th, you've gotten rid of all your bloom and you won't really need to worry about this. So I think you've probably already finished strong and can move on a bit. And if you are planting a new orchard and it's constantly going to flower anytime in the summer, you're just going to see it's always red. And in that particular case, you're just going to cover those flowers or remove them. If you remove them, please also put strep on because you will have injured them. And you're just going to put on an antibiotic and you're going to let that thing last until the next rain event. I have lost plantings in September or October. So if they are flowering at weird off the wall times because you had to do a late planting, then just keep a steady strep program until the flowers fall off the trees. Also, when they are really late and it's constantly red, the bloom is going to go by very quickly and the flowers will all be off in like a week or two. And you really probably only need about 2 weeks of protection to get through those points unless something is really susceptible or scary. Okay, let's go back in reverse. We'll go back to Williamson. Boop. Probably going to have the same thing. If we see the same type of stuff, we won't talk about the same things over and over again. Nope, easy week all the way in the Williamson soda series. I'm going to hit sodas just out of curiosity, see if it's any different. Spell it correctly. This thing is all over with. Fire Blight's over. Oh no, set a date. I mean, same thing. It gets a little warm towards the June 5th, but you're gonna be fine. I'm gonna move back into Interlaken. And then we'll go to Peru, which could still have flowers. Even if you're in here, what I'm doing is I'm setting the blossom date open so that it just turns the model back on. We can look at predictions. Even pretty easy. Even though you got high EIPs here, you've had a lot of flowers, it's not suggesting there's going to be a lot of leaf wetness. This is just accumulating heat, the Cougar Blight TRV, and then the EIPs still say, yeah, we're at 180, but you probably have no flowers and there's no rain. So I would definitely say no panic. I want to go to, let's say, Cheesy. See how they're doing. We might take a double look at Peru. Are they out of flowers? I even say Peru's out of flowers. And same thing, no big deal. Sort of the same type of predictions. 25th and the 5th and 4th and 5th. Check look at this one. Looks like it's also over. The only thing you have to worry about are late plantings or rat tail. It's going to be a pretty easy one. High levels of heat towards Peru, but there's not a lot of rain. Just watch that. And I don't think many people have flowers out and about right now. I want to check the capital. Probably nothing to really concern ourselves about. Let's give ourselves the first blossom date. Yep, no, it looks pretty simple. Same as everywhere else. A really cool week. Going into a little bit of heat, but you probably don't have a lot of flowers or anything else remaining. Hopefully not. And we'll go into Walden, look at crests, and see how those are looking. They have a little hot in an actual infection period on the 2nd. I'm going to take a look around in the other one. I'm going to check the other site really quick. If you would have to have flowers open to really be concerned about this, but no, depending on where you are, you're not really, may or may not get that little blip on the 2nd. Same thing, it's getting hot at the end of the week, but hopefully you'll have all your flowers gone by then. And there'll be no bloom or no out of sync cultivars. And if you do, you can just 1 or 2 streps should get you through, because when it is hot enough, the bloom will accelerate and be off the trees pretty quickly. And we'll finally check Riverhead for one last one. There's a couple of them. I'm going to check 2 Riverheads just for fun. See what the other one looks like. It's always nice to check different sites, because sometimes you might see that something is down. And Riverhead looks good too. Same situation. Coming off of a hot period, going into a real easy period. Hopefully you're long since done with flowers, but I want to check this other one. How's this one looking? I haven't seen this station. Yeah, let's put it up. Oh, even easier week on the other area. All right, well, that's it for now. I will get back and we'll do some more forecasts and also some more observations from the field next week.